Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is located in the St. Louis metro community of Arnold, Missouri. The ABV Barrel Shop is focused on one thing, single barrels. Best of all, you can try before you buy. Head over to abvbarrelshop.com to sign up for their email and text distribution so you know what they have in stock, what classes are coming up, and who from the industry may be coming in to visit. The ABV Barrel Shop. It's where single barrels live. We are also sponsored by the Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers traveling minibars that are no bigger than a small purse or toiletry bag. Best of all, they are fully customizable so you can create the perfect piece that is unique for you. If you own your own business, what a fun and unique way to promote what you do. Check them out online at thebartogo.com. That is the number 2 in the Bar to Go. If you have wholesale questions, call my friend Isabel Clark at 504-481-1297. Finally, we are sponsored by the Neely Family Distillery. NFD is a family-owned business that keeps ringing up awards in the spirits world. Head to Sparta, Kentucky to experience the family history, award-winning spirits, and meet the Neely family. Check them out online at neelyfamilydistillery.com. Now, on to the show.
Let's drink!
Welcome to the Bourbon Daily, the podcast about everything bourbon delivered to you every day of the week. Today on the show, we discuss whether or not source brand saying they quote-unquote made the whiskey is offensive or not. My name is Miss Beka Sue. Please join me in welcoming my co-host, Steve Akeley, along with our special guests, Luke Cotero, Lenny Eckstein, and Darren McElroy.
Hey, gang, what's up?
Howdy.
Hey, everybody.
We're going to be talking about this idea of someone who buys whiskey, puts it in a bottle, and then refers to themselves as the maker of said whiskey, or the media referring to them as the maker of that. Sometimes it can be one or both of those, making that what I think is a mistake, but we'll get to that after the break. But before we get to that, Darren said there's something he wanted to talk about. What is that, Darren?
So I've experienced this before, and I experienced it last night at the tasting bar. So there seems to be this sense of community and camaraderie that forms around a bar. So what is some of y'all's best stories for things that have happened at a bar and everyone was happy and working together? Anytime that everyone here feels connected, even though we didn't know each other beforehand. Do you guys have any stories like that?
Yeah,
I got one.
Okay, go ahead.
I wouldn't call it camaraderie per se, but every once in a while, and this is pretty rare, we get someone who comes in and immediately you're like, what the fuck is going on with that person? Like, not just they had a few too many drinks, but something's wrong. And I'll cut the story fairly short because it can go on for a while, but ultimately the guy kind of made his way around our distillery and through the tasting room, and we knew there was a problem. So one of our bartenders was like, sir, you're going to need to move along. And he was like, what? I'll call the cops. I'm not going anywhere. And one of our regulars was like, I'm a cop and you can leave right now. And took off real fast. And that was pretty awesome.
It's pretty likely if someone would say something like that in our place, someone would be able to stand up and say that. There's not too often where we don't have a cop in there. It's just how it is, man. I mean, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, my dad would love that. My dad, who wasn't really a drinker, I think would probably come up to the bar every day had he lived to see this place, just for the cops, hanging out with the cops. So that's who he likes to hang out with. My dad was a police officer for 30 years, and man, this would be my place. Would be his type of place for sure. So, yeah. Who else has something? We had an example just, was that last night? We had some new customers come in, probably, a half hour before we closed, and not necessarily close. I think it was like probably a one-time opportunity to impress them. If they didn't like it, I don't think that they would ever be back. They were just far enough away where it's an effort to get there. Not that if you really like the place, you make that effort. And they came in, they had a great time. Matter of fact, I got an email from one of them that filled out our form to sign up for email and text distribution, saying that I came into your place. I was blown away. I had so much fun. What a great welcome and stuff like that. And it was a couple guys, and one of them had on a Hot Springs, Arkansas shirt. And I told my story at the bar of my most naked vacation ever. And I gave the full details of when I got stripped down by a man in a spa. Literally tore my clothes off because I thought you had the option of wearing a swimsuit and not. I was just going to wear a swimsuit in there, and this guy, it's a whole story. I'd have to tell that at some point.
Wait,
yeah, he decided.
He decided come up behind you, just like hug him down.
It was a whole thing because it is. So I literally, I mean, I won't tell the whole story here, but they do. It's part of the National Park Service there, so they make you see a video that lets you know that you can, be totally naked if you want, or you can, wear a swimsuit. It's up to you as to where your comfortableness is. So I go in there and I have my swimsuit on, and the attendant, who's they start out in this it's hot spring, so in a hot spring bath, he's drawing the bath. He comes in and says, "We're going to be ready in a couple minutes. You need to get that swimsuit off." And I was like, I thought in the video you could wear your swimsuit. Nobody wears a swimsuit in this place. So fine. I got this figured out. He left. So I just put a towel around my waist and had it. And then I was covered the swimsuit. And he comes back in and says, "Okay, it's ready. Let's go." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes behind me and he pulls down my towel and my pants. He sees those, he sees my swim trunks on and just starts pulling them off. Says, "You can't wear shorts in here. Ain't no man wearing shorts in this." and he kept doing it. I finally just took him off, threw in the locker, went back to my life, threw him in there, and that happened.
Man,
and it was
I feel like you were talking to a lot of things if that's the case.
Yeah.
Listen, as personable as Steve seems on the air, Steve is not really comfortable with those type of situations.
Right, exactly.
You get a little bit uncomfortable in situations, Steve. So I can only imagine
it was awkward. Yeah. Yeah, they just take you, and then you're walking around naked, and this is 20 years later now. I got to thinking about this. So my daughter went, and she was probably about 6, and of course the ladies have different. She was with Amy, and the ladies could wear their swimsuits, so they both went, did the same thing, but on the ladies' side. And
you're being assaulted on the other side.
Yeah, here I'm getting assaulted on the men's side, and it was terrible. Now I got to thinking about it. At age 55, I just go in there naked and wouldn't even care anymore. At this stage of my life, I'd just be like, "Fuck it, it's fine, it's fine." I cared back then. I thought, well, I'm slightly overweight. I'll never be any fatter than this. So clearly, I don't want to be naked. People see me in this state. Now it's just like I'm twice as fat, and I would just be like, fuck it. Do you want to look? Go ahead. I'm naked. Go ahead. Oh yes. Good times. So yeah, I told that story. So
yeah, and everyone at the bar, the regulars and these new guys, were just hanging on for every word. It was like, "Come on, Steve, you can sneak your swim trunks in there. You can sneak in."
It's great when you have an audience and it's like you're feeding an animal. They're eating out of your hand, and you're putting the pauses in at the right places and holding things up, and then you hit them with the big punchline of all the stuff that happened. Yeah, it was good. It was fun. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How about you at a bar? Well, your whole career here, your whole marriage, everything is related to you being in a bar one time, because I saw a video of you at a bar and I liked it, and we got to talking.
I've got there's
that's a big thing that happened in a bar for you.
Yeah, there's just way too many bar stories that I have in general, like from working behind a bar, where there was, prior to being here, I worked behind a bar for just a little while. Now I work behind a bar all the time here. So I'm just really working for jokes at this point.
Right.
And also I love going to bars.
Yeah.
I love sitting at a bar top. If they're like, "Where would you like to sit tonight, ma'am?" I'm like, "The bar," because all I want to do is sit and BS with the bartender and then talk shit about the other people who are there. Like, there's nothing more fun than making for my best friends who are not my best friends are always the people behind the bar. I always am making friends with them. Royce thinks that I'm a lunatic because I'm always making friends with these people. I know Greg up at the CVG airport. I know him. I walk in, "Hey, Greg, what's up?" Royce is like, "You don't know him." I'm like, "Yeah, dude. We come in here and I always sit down with Greg. It's Greg.
Yeah, it's Greg.
And Greg's like, oh, hey, how's the house coming along? I'm like, thanks, Greg. It's looking good. This is how it's looking. He's like, oh, man, you guys got so much work done. We're just like, what the fuck? Like, you don't know these people in the bar. And I'm like, well, I don't. But you sort of get to know these people. And I feel like airport bars are like one of my favorites of just like sitting down and like just chatting with people.
Yeah, people from all walks of life, all over the country. It's
yeah. And when they remember you, because I used to fly a lot. Me and my brother were going down to, we were going to New York, I think, and we sat down at another one of these random bars over in the Minneapolis airport, and I was like, oh, Gail's working. Here she is. We go sit down. I'm like, hey, Gail, and she's like, oh, how are you doing? I haven't seen you for a few weeks. I said, I'm great. We're going to New York, and she just started. She's like, what do you guys want? And we said, oh, we want to get a shot of tequila. She's like, perfect. She pours a shot. And she goes, did you guys want doubles? And we're like, yeah, we could do doubles. And she's like, all right. And she pours it and she goes, honestly, that was barely a double. Let me just get you guys another shot. Pours us another shot. And the double she gave us was definitely a double. Then the shot she just gave us for free was a triple. And then she just gave us some extra beers that were sitting there. And I mean, I was blacked out on the plane. Like, and this is in the course of 30 minutes waiting to board.
Yeah.
And
you might have seen her all over the internet recently saying that motherfucker back there.
That motherfucker?
I don't give two shits if you believe me or not. That motherfucker is not real.
It's not real. And you can die on this plane, but I'm not. Hey, man. But yeah, I mean, like those airport bars, like they will absolutely get you for like 100%. But I would say that one of my favorite like camaraderie things was just people noticing that someone maybe is a problem, and didn't have cops around, but other patrons noticing and being like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that they're okay. So when I was bartending in Minot, it was a dive bar, just so you know. And it was attached to a hotel, which the hotel was a very cheap hotel. Like, I mean, like $30-$40 a night kind of hotel. Right. And that's the hotel that they would use for people who were getting out of jail. So like they needed to stay somewhere and they would put them in that hotel.
Yeah.
Almost never had any problems, but there was one guy who was definitely a problem. He claimed he had not drank that night. He clearly had found some drugs or something. And he was just, I actually had live streamed it on my Instagram. I don't know if you were friends with me or not, Steve, or if you had saw it, but I had live streamed it on my Instagram. This was, quite a few years ago. But I just like turned it up because I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen. If this guy was going to like lose it and attack me or what. And he just was standing there screaming and being insane. And I didn't have a gun or anything like that, but I had my little like billy club behind the bar. And a few of the regulars who would usually be gone had stayed. And like there was one, it was just like this probably, I don't know, 6'6", probably 275, like big black guy that was a truck driver. And he'd usually just stay for one drink and he stayed for like a few. And finally, like this guy like left eventually because I told him he had to leave. I kicked the guy out. And that guy had stayed and a few other people had stayed. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, you usually just get one. He's like, I was not about to leave until I watched that guy physically leave here because I was about to like pick him up and throw him out of here. Because the last thing I was going to do is leave him here with you. And so I guess like kind of those things have always been my favorite, where it's just like people making sure that other people are okay when there's lunatics around.
Right. Yeah.
Which on occasion, I'm probably the lunatic. People are making sure that no one's going to get hurt from. You never know.
Yeah.
But those are always my favorite. And also just like you said, like making friends, telling stories. I mean, I have a billion of these things that I can't even remember at this point that have happened. Wow. But that's what always stands out.
Luke, how about you, man? Bar stories? Anything that stands out?
I like the question. So thank you, Darren. And I apply it to two situations.
Okay.
I like going to places, bars that don't know me. And then we strike up any kind of independent conversation that occurs. And that's fun because they ask you what you do, why are you doing it, and it goes back and forth. And then ultimately sports get involved or something like that. And that's fun. But the other situation is at our country club. when there's a group of us that get together, like when the Masters is on, and when the Little League World Series is on, and we just make an afternoon out of it. And we swap stories about just about everything and anything. I mean, from the wife's nacho dip recipe that wasn't worth a shit or something like that, to just kind of old boring country club men stuff.
Right. Well, Darren, you asked the question. What do you got?
So, back my senior year of college, there was this bar that we always went to called Black and Gold, and they had $2.50 Busch Lights. That was their big thing. And so you get a can of Busch Light, and like weeks in a row, we'd build a big pyramid and we'd make it touch the ceiling. And that was our night every night. And then one time we were like, we're going in. We're going to take the whole table, which was about 3.5 feet by 6 feet. And we're going to build a solid brick from that up to the ceiling. And so probably 6 feet of beer cans, because I could stand on the tables and not hit the ceilings. And so we got everyone together and we got so close, but the bar closed down and like, well, you guys have to go. And like, oh, we were only like a couple cans away. We had the whole bar working on it though. There was hundreds of people that were giving us all their beer cans so we could stack them up. And so the next week we're like, we're going to start an hour earlier and we're going to get this. And we told everyone in the bar, everyone showed up an hour earlier, and we made it go all the way up to the top and touch the ceiling. And everyone in the bar just lost their complete mind. One of the loudest situations I've ever been in, because everyone was yelling and screaming. But it turns out no one actually ever got a photo of that moment because we were all so happy. And then it got knocked over quickly after. So
yeah, wow.
That's my.
That sounds like good college fun, though. That's the kind of shit you do when you're in college, for sure. 100%. All right. On that note, guess what, gang? It is time to drink. What is everyone drinking? Let's start with Mr. Otero this time. Luke, what do you got, man?
When in California, I found this Hardin's Creek, 2-year-old Colonel James B. Bean.
The hell? Oh, okay. We heard it. We'll say that. Is your brother doing some modeling now, Becca? What's going on here? Is this Photoshop?
No. So you guys know, I just sent this photo to Steve.
Yeah.
That's my brother.
Is he modeling? What is that?
No, my dad owns a advertising like agency, and he owns he owns like some newspapers and stuff. And this one company asked him, they're like, "Hey, we need some advertising in the newspaper," and he's like, "Well, you guys need some models. Like, you need like some like people modeling your stuff." And so my dad grabbed my brother and like positioned him and everything. And took pictures of Eddie wearing the clothes.
So he is doing modeling.
That's a great photo, though.
Nepotism, though. But
like you wouldn't even know that's
no.
It's not just some model that wears like the guy's probably going to be on Yellowstone.
Yeah. This may lead to a whole new career for Eddie. Eddie could take off. Yeah. Oh, all right. Okay, Darren, you're next.
I got some Stumpy's Old Monroe Spirits.
What was that? Did you pull to the side?
I don't know.
I
don't know what I'm going to.
But that submarine sounded like.
Some of these like ways that people open their bottles are just mind-boggling to me, Steve. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like Darren's doing some weird
pulling it to sideways.
I was balancing it on my knee because it seemed closer than the table.
Yeah. All right, I've got 10th Mountain here.
I've got the lead.
Yeah, you got the lead.
Luke has the lead. I'm next. Here we go. No, nothing there. Absolutely nothing. Luke still has the lead. Let's see, Becca, you're next.
I am next. What's our show about today again? It was about source brands.
Source brands.
I'm going to do, I've got some Yellowstone here. There's single malt whiskey.
Okay. Oh!
There we go. There's a proper leader.
There you go. There's the lead.
Whoops.
Well, that was a great cork pop. Explosive. All right, Lenny, you're last but not least.
I've got a bottle of blackened.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Very good, but not good enough. Not good enough.
Typically it'd be good, Lenny, but
Yeah, Beka got it. Beka got it.
Sorry.
So cheers, gang.
cheers.
Cheers.
Beka gets all Canadian. Sorry. All right. We'll take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking about, people that say that they are makers of whiskey when they are sourcing the brand and media reporting on that in the same way. We'll do that in just a few. Okay, let's talk about the people that make these shows happen. First up is the Stave and Thief Society. Via their in-person class at Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky, the Stave and Thief Society is the place where you, a bourbon enthusiast, can expand your knowledge and emerge an executive bourbon steward. In 2017, I completed my executive bourbon steward certification. It's the most comprehensive bourbon certification available and connects you with an expansive network of bourbon enthusiasts and professionals. Check out the full listing of in-person and online certifications and join the society today by enrolling at staveandthief.com. We're also sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop focuses exclusively on barrel picks. It's the job of owners Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot to seek out distilleries that are making the best whiskey in the world, taste through their barrels, and select the ones that are off-profile in the best way possible. They have high standards and refuse to allow anything into their store other than something they would be proud to have their name on. This leads to some really awkward conversations with distilleries that can't make it, but they do it for you, their customers. Learn more about what is going on at their St. Louis-based store by heading over to abvbarrelshop.com. Last but not least, we are sponsored by Neely Family Distillery. Royce Neely is the 11th generation distiller in one of America's oldest distilling families. A visit to Neely Family Distillery takes you through family history, where you can see all the artifacts and newspaper clippings through the years from this family that started distilling in America after James Neely arrived from Northern Ireland in 1740. Today, Royce Neely and his team are crafting some of the best spirits in America. Their bourbon and absinthe offerings keep winning top honors in the spirits competitions. Recently, their absinthe made history as the first platinum winner in the absinthe category at the San Francisco Spirits Competition. Neely Family Distillery is definitely a bucket list destination if you are a bourbon fan. Learn more about their spirit offerings, visiting their facility, and the awards they have collected over at NeelyFamilyDistillery.com.
Hello, this is Jeff from Iowa, and you're listening to the Bourbon Daily with Colonel Steve.
Welcome back to the Bourbon Daily. Today we're wondering if it's offensive to say that you made the whiskey when you didn't.
Yes, we are. So here's two examples from the media. So not pointing the fingers at the featured brands because we don't know their involvement in this. It could just be someone writing a headline. But everyone heard recently that Coors bought out Blue Run, and the headline, and again, one person writes it that gets picked up by all the other news sources and stuff like that. So it's used in multiple places. As drinkers shift to spirits, Molson Coors acquires a bourbon maker. Did they? I thought they acquired Blue Run.
Yeah.
I mean, Blue Run hasn't made anything. They've been great at buying barrels. Yes. And you could say, well, they're building a distillery. Are they? So where are they at on that? I mean, how close are they? I don't know.
There's pictures drawn up, but there's not much more than
they got
that.
some great pictures. Yeah.
Makers?
Yeah, call them bourbon maker. That's interesting to me. So. Yes. And then another one, of course, we heard that Augusta Distillery, which that's a Kentucky distillery. Weird to, you think of Augusta, you think of Georgia immediately, but this is in Augusta, Kentucky. And they, of course, out in San Francisco, won the best bourbon in the world. And the headline, again, gets picked up by multiple sources, but meet the makers of the newly crowned world's best bourbon. I'm like, okay, is this an article about MGP or Barton or whomever made that? The makers? So we're calling them the makers now? Is that if you buy whiskey and put it in a bottle, I would be known as the maker of that whiskey.
So do you make Boxing Bear just because you go pick it?
Of course, yes, yeah. I made that whiskey because I ordered that. I picked the barrel that goes in. I wonder if all of our barrel picks could be counted as we make it, because we're buying the barrels. We're picking them out.
Explain to people if we could just say that.
We made that. We made that. Is it just me, or is that offensive? I mean, that's, to me, that's an error in reporting that is widely made.
I think
or am I just being a jerk?
No, I agree with you. You know that I agree with you, obviously. I think that it's just a massive error I think that it's just that reporters can be. They have to report on so many things that they have absolutely zero knowledge on. And they may do their research, but there is a lot of stuff that if you don't really do a bunch of research and actually talk to people about it, and you just like kind of search around, you look at the website, you look at a few different things, but you don't actually talk to anyone, like you're not going to be doing real reporting on things. Yeah.
That's a problem with reporting in America these days. No, we don't have newspapers anymore. And I know they'll be like, yes, we do. There's one. There used to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of newspapers, and now it's been whittled down greatly. And there's and even though the newspapers that are still there, they're barely hanging on any of them. And, they don't have the reporters like they used to. And, that's a big loss. Now we leave our reporting up to bloggers and Twitter feeds, unfortunately. I mean, how many news stories do you see? It's just what people posted on Twitter. And that's not news. That's not reporting. But that's what happens. Luke, what do you think about this? Does it bother you every time you see one of those? Because it bothers me when I see Maker, and I know it's not something that they made.
It used to, and still does, but I attribute it to this entire huge wave it's just a tidal wave of the popularity of bourbon, and it's getting lost. All the details are getting lost, and in so many ways. We've had several podcasts that we've talked about scented candles, restaurants doing bourbon burgers or bourbon pancakes. You can go on and on and on. But it all gets lost into the real stuff. And all of us on this panel tonight, we know. And I would just hope that the reporting would get a little bit more educated, because there's the real true story is being lost every day.
Right. Yeah. And this isn't being critical of Source Brands. Again, we've always been supportive of them. We don't have any issue with that at all. But yeah, I just don't consider them to have made that whiskey because they're the ones that bottled it. So, Lenny, what do you say?
I've got a lot to say, but I'll try not to ramble too much. So I'm not offended, but I do get annoyed. But I understand why it happens. And I guess I would take it in a few different directions. One is out here in Colorado, we have a pretty cool scene, and folks on some of the Facebook groups might say, throw a question out there hey guys, what are some of the best distilleries in Denver that I need to visit? And people will start dropping the names of non-distiller producers. And there's words have to have meanings. And if you do not make whiskey that is in the bottle that people can buy, you are not a distillery. I mean, I guess if you're distilling stuff, maybe you are, but if you never put it out, are you? So that annoys me, the reference to non-distilling producers being called distilleries. And then there's another reason why I think it happens, and I kind of get this. And kind of a, I don't know, in a sense, if you look at a parallel, if you go to see or if there is a really known DJ, you wouldn't say God, they're a good musician. You just don't say that. They don't necessarily play a classical instrument, not classical, but a traditional instrument. They don't write these songs, but they make cool sounds, and they're really good DJs. It's a different thing. Yeah. And I think the equivalent would be if, I don't know, the media or the public didn't actually ever see it happen. They just heard it. They wouldn't know any better. And it's just like that with bourbon. They don't know any better because they taste something God, this is good. Damn, they're a good maker. They're a good distillery. They just don't know. And that leads me into my final point of sorts, which is, God, I can't fault the non-distiller producer. They're doing their damn thing. And I hold some of them in very high regard for what they're putting together that is a creation of something that is more unique than the original product. But where I do have issue with some of them is that while the brand might not tell the story that they've made this stuff. Sometimes their reps do. You know, and they're like, "What? I didn't say that." I'm like, "Oh, God damn it! I know your rep just did." You know, and that drives me a little crazy. I think it's very disingenuous of brands who are like, "No, we're pretty transparent. We don't tell anybody." Well, you certainly didn't correct the course when you knew that.
Yeah.
You're probably going to sell more bottles if they think, as a Colorado distillery, just as an example, because we're out here, if the public happens to think that it's really a Colorado made brand, they're going to fucking support it. Just like any state that has a strong, feeling and pride for their state. So, when that happens, I get a little butthurt, to say the least.
It is frustrating, and there's some of these brands that they're fantastic at blending different products. They're fantastic at their finishes and like finding cool barrels.
This black is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, like there's some of them like they're fantastic, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just say, especially when they pretend that it's like no, but we do make bourbon. It's like, okay, you just started being a thing 2 years ago. And you have something that's this old, because that doesn't make any sense.
But like the litmus test of sorts is, well, what if you wrote on your bottle, distilled in Indiana, bottled by, really bold on the bottle? How would your sales do?
Right.
Probably not good, right?
See, if people still say it's good, then they'll probably still sell just fine.
Well, so like my counter opinion, but maybe I'm off on this, is 50% of the sales you're doing versus if people actually believe that you made the product. I think you cut it in half.
Yeah. I got a quick follow-up from Lenny, because he did bring up an interesting analogy, an interesting statement, a DJ. What do you think about a DJ like Norman Cook, a.k.a. Fatboy Slim, Rockefeller Skank? That's a good song that he created. Is he a musician, or is he still just a DJ?
He's a blender.
He's a blender. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
He's taking pieces of other things and creating something better.
Yeah. He's not just working clubs and making music for clubs. He's actually creating music, not mixing into and out of different songs and stuff like that, like you might see a DJ doing.
I mean, it's cool, and I'm happy to listen to it. It's just a different thing, and I want to know what it is.
Okay.
A flip side version of that, if you ever listen to Thievery Corporation, I assumed it was 100% sampled, no live music. But then I actually saw them, and there's a ton of live music happening. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, it's just, I think there could be more transparency, obviously. And maybe I'm a little offended. I don't know. I find it offensive.
Yeah, well, I think you are way more offended than you alluded to. Yeah, especially when it impacts you. It sounds like you're pretty cool with it. Like our two examples here, that has no impact on you. But when someone says, "I make Colorado whiskey," and they are buying it from Indiana and selling it, that kind of hits too close to home for you, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've got friends in the industry who I am happy for them. I am impressed with their product, but they're not a distillery.
Right. There are some well-known ones in Colorado that notoriously aren't distilling, or certainly not doing a bulk of what they're putting out. And they're some of the most well-known. And you're not the only Colorado distiller that I know that doesn't like those particular distilleries. So it's interesting that a lot of people don't like that. So you're not the only one. That's all I'm trying to say.
I guess I don't dislike that. I think I don't know. Maybe I'll have a conversation with a few of them, because there's definitely more.
So I think it does bother you. So say we're at a bar, we're in St. Louis, and we're at a bar, and you hear someone say, "Man, they're not talking to us. They're just at the next table, and they're like, man, I love Colorado whiskey." And then they throw out, two examples of ones that where they're just sourcing. Yeah. And you're like, and you're sitting there as a person who distills in Colorado, and you're like, shit, they're not making that. They're not Colorado whiskey.
I'm not shy about calling it out, whether it was that hypothetical situation or in the pseudo real world of the internet.
Right.
I mean, people I'm friends with, I will reference them and say like, "Hey, hold your horses. They do not make that, but I'm sure it's fine product."
Right.
That's all facts, and I don't like them any less. I'm not gonna, piss on their car tire or anything. Not that I do that ever, but I don't know.
Oh, you've done it. You've done it a time or two.
To Steve several times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like if I'm at a a bourbon festival and it's mostly Colorado distilleries there because that's the nature of it out here. I appreciate when a brand will be fully transparent. A good example of that, Hidden Barn. When they're at across the way from me, nobody comes up and they're like, yeah. There's no, I don't know. There's no suggestiveness that, picking up a product and putting together a good blend is the same as making it from grain to glass and doing everything oneself. But there's brands that don't, and people don't know if you don't tell them.
Yeah. It's hilarious when I see these these different Facebook groups and they're like, so what distillery should I go and see? And I saw one that was specifically about, I'm in Colorado, what distillery should I go see? And they listed off some that I know that don't exist. Right. Because they just listed off brands that are like they're from Colorado. And I've seen some with like people like, I'm going to Kentucky. So like where can I go to this distillery and this distillery? And I'm like, that
you can, and they're cool
in your imagination. You can visit anywhere.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So I agree that they shouldn't be saying they make it. Actually, I have two questions. How do we feel about the word produced? Because that's what a lot of them put on their bottles.
I think it fools people. I don't like that either.
I think that's just the same thing. Just
it's meant to be confusing to consumers.
Yeah.
Produced by, all that means is, that they've basically, it doesn't mean anything. It can mean they if someone could distill it and put produced by on the bottle, so it's confusing. Yeah.
Well, it's also small. Nobody puts produced by in the front, or I shouldn't say nobody, but it's always tiny print on the back. In fact, you have
to know where to look.
Yeah, you have to know where to look, but I'll go a step further. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but the TTB specifies the exact font size, in points. Yeah. And I guess you kind of have to comply with that. Sometimes I guess they could catch you. I saw a brand recently that is, blends from various places, and it was the right font size, but it was so condensed that I had to take a picture of it and zoom in to read it. That said where the product was from. That is 100% disingenuous, and this brand has a lot of fans, and I'm positive that at least 95% of them believe that they're doing a great job as a craft distillery.
Right.
That, I think that's a bummer. Good for them for putting out a good product, good for the people who are enjoying that product, but, shame on them for, let's be honest, they're intentionally
muddying the waters. They're muddying the waters.
Yeah, they're pulling the wool over people's eyes, smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. That goes back to whoever's reporting or is doing a report on somebody that to call it all out. So
it's hard to see through the smoke.
Education.
Right. Yeah.
So my final question is, so for these non-distilling producers, the ones that are doing a good job, the ones that are trying to say that they're sourced at every single possible moment, and they want to have one of these visitor locations, because that's the hot thing in bourbon right now, a place where everyone can go visit. What would be a good thing to call them that won't stomp on distilleries' feet, but will be able so that they can have a visiting experience, tasting room type stuff?
Bourbon blenders.
Because there's a bunch of brands that that has that interface, and people go there and they're like, oh, that was a distillery, because they don't have another thing to grasp onto.
Blenders. Yeah, I think that's
houses?
a very that
blending room.
Yeah, blending room. That's not bad. There is a point of pride there, and the guys from the Pursuit line seem to be doing that, and props to them for never muddying the water, as far as I can tell.
Right. Yeah.
Or barrel, or
they're going to open up on Whiskey Row themselves.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah. But from what I understand, an initiative to say you won't see any stills here. That's not our bag. But what is our bag? Check out all these barrels, and whether who knows? I mean, whether it's the most unique blend because they figured it out or not, who cares? I like the transparency, be it them or a barrel or anyone else that takes that approach, or Buzzard's Roost, anyone.
Yeah.
That's called the whiskey experience, which I like that term, the whiskey experience. It's not about making it; it's just an experience of drinking whiskey. I think that one works really well.
And I'm proud, and I don't know. I'm glad. I think that's the right move, because smoke and mirrors is bullshit, like let's educate. That's what people are yearning for anyway. No one wants to be fooled. Who doesn't feel like an idiot when I point out to them or someone else like, hey, just so you know, they don't make it. And then a bunch of other people chime in like, yeah, they don't make it. That comes from somewhere else. It's embarrassing. Nobody wants to be embarrassed.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So there you go. On that note, we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Darren, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Bourbon Adventures. Also 5-6 days a week at the ABV Barrel Shop.
Okay, Luke.
You can find us at Santa Fe Boutique Wines on Instagram and Luke Otero on LinkedIn.
All right. Lenny.
You can find me and the rest of Deer Hammer on social media at Deer Hammer, on the web at deerhammer.com. You can order our bottles of whiskey that we distill in-house from sealbox.com. And you can come visit us in beautiful Buena Vista, Colorado.
Miss Beka Sue.
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Miss Beka Sue, 1K, no C's.
For me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. We've also got a company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. You got to check that one out because everything that we do is out there. We put all those previous shows. We put our blogs out there. We've got Bourbon Zeppelin out there. We've got Quick Bourbon Notes, our most popular publication. So check us out online, abvnetwork.com. And come by and see us. You can try before you buy at our shop, which is pretty darn cool. So check us out online so you know what's going on at any time, classes I'm talking about, new releases, things like that, over at abvbarrelshop.com. Beka, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I'd just like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review that includes comments. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. If you like what we're doing, we ask you please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/the ABV Network.
Great job today, gang. Fartance, we'll have a brand new show for you tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Until then, take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Later.
You guys.
Bye, y'all.
Before we finish the show, let's talk about some of the great companies that support the ABV network. First up is Moonshine Still Pro. Moonshine Still Pro is owned and operated by Russell Creed, who makes stills for the hobby distiller. He offers a one-stop shop for everything the at-home distiller needs. Whether it's a small, experimental stovetop still or something bigger you run outside, he has the still or parts you would have difficulty fabricating yourself if you were trying to build a DIY still project. Additionally, he has resources to assist in creating unique distilled spirits, including heirloom grains, barrels for aging, and recipes. Check out Russell's company online at moonshinestillpro.com. Finally, I have a question for you. Have you ever boxed a bear? Of course not. That'd be silly. Bears really don't follow the rules, so shots in the back of the head, punches to the nuts, and scrums after the bell would be the norm. A better idea would be to enjoy Boxing Bear Whiskey, a brand crafted by Nobleton's Distilling House in Union, Missouri, and sold exclusively at the ABV Barrel Shop in suburban St. Louis. This is a popular offering that sells out quickly, but when you are in town, stop by the ABV Barrel Shop and see if they have it in stock. Better yet, sign up for their email and text distribution over at abvbarrelshop.com and you'll know exactly when it is in stock. This is Steve Akeley, owner of the ABV Network, signing off. We thank you for listening to our programming and truly appreciate your support.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.